All right, let's take a deep dive today into the world of soil and nutrients. We're going to tackle a question from listeners Kesser and Steen.
Okay.
They are curious about how forests manage to maintain this balance of nutrients without any help from us humans.
Hmm.
Specifically, they're wondering about pine needles.
Interesting.
Do they actually benefit the soil, or are they just prickly decorations out there?
That's a question that causes a lot of debate, actually, between gardeners
Yeah.
and nature enthusiasts.
Well, Kesser and Steen have been doing some reading, trying to get a clear answer,
Yeah,
but they're feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the information out there.
I bet.
So we're going to break it down for them and for you, and hopefully uncover some surprising truths about pine needles and the health of our soil.
Let's do it.
First things first, do pine needles actually contain nutrients that can benefit the soil?
They do. They do contain nutrients. Now, even though they may not be as quick to break down as some other organic materials,
Yeah.
pine needles do have a variety of nutrients that are essential for plant growth, including nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium,
Okay.
calcium, and magnesium.
Wait, hold on. So they have all those nutrients, but they decompose slowly.
Yes.
So doesn't that mean that those nutrients are basically locked away, like some kind of time capsule buried in the soil?
That's a good point, and that actually leads into one of the benefits of using pine needles as a soil amendment. Because they do decompose so slowly,
Right.
they act like a time-release fertilizer, slowly giving nutrients to the soil over a longer period of time.
Okay, so instead of a quick burst of nutrients, they provide a slow and steady supply.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it helps create, I think, a more stable and balanced soil environment.
That makes sense. But what about that whole thing about pine needles making the soil acidic?
Right.
Is that a myth, or is there some truth to it?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Fresh pine needles are naturally acidic because of the presence of organic acids in them,
Okay.
and they have a pH of around 3 to 4, so they really are acidic. But if forests are covered in pine needles, how come they're not just giant acid baths out there?
That's where it gets interesting.
Good.
That initial acidity from the pine needles, that's temporary.
Yeah.
And it mainly affects just the top layer of soil.
Okay.
And within weeks or months, as those pine needles begin to decompose,
Yeah.
the acidity starts to neutralize.
So it's not like that acidity just hangs around forever.
No, not at all. Decomposition is a fascinating process. As the pine needles break down, those acidic compounds are either consumed by microorganisms or they're washed away by rain, or they simply just degrade over time.
Okay.
And plus, as decomposition progresses, it releases base nutrients like calcium and magnesium, which can actually help to raise the pH.
So it's kind of counterintuitive. You would think if something starts out acidic, it would just make the soil more acidic.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
But remember, soil is a very complex system.
How?
And the interaction between those organic materials, the microorganisms, and the minerals, it creates this delicate balance that's constantly in motion and changing.
So in the long run, pine needles can actually help raise the pH of the soil.
They can.
That's amazing.
It is. And it highlights the importance of really understanding the long-term effects of different organic materials on soil health.
You mentioned calcium and magnesium playing a role in raising the pH. Could you break that down a bit further? How do those elements actually neutralize acidity?
Sure. Think of it this way. Those calcium and magnesium ions act like Pac-Man characters, gobbling up the hydrogen ions that make things acidic.
Mm-hmm.
So as the concentration of hydrogen ions decreases,
Yeah.
the pH level goes up.
So they're basically cleaning up those acidic elements in the soil.
Yeah, you could put it that way. It's a natural buffering system that helps regulate the pH of the soil.
Now, I know some gardeners will use wood ash to adjust the pH of their soil.
Yeah.
How does wood ash compare to pine needles in terms of its effect on acidity?
Well, wood ash is kind of like the express lane to raising pH. It acts as a base immediately, neutralizing acidity right away.
Okay.
Pine needles, on the other hand, take the scenic route. They gradually neutralize acidity over time as they decompose.
So wood ash is a quick fix, while pine needles offer a more gradual and sustained approach.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
And both can be beneficial depending on your soil needs and what you're hoping to accomplish in your garden.
Right, but before you reach for either one of them, it's really crucial to get a soil test to determine your starting pH.
Right. You don't want to overdo it.
Exactly.
So we've established that pine needles do contain nutrients and that they can actually contribute to raising the pH of the soil over time.
That's right.
I'm wondering, if someone wanted to use pine needles in their garden, what kind of soil would they be best suited for?
That's a great question. And it leads us to kind of a comparison of different organic materials and their effects on soil health.
Okay.
So let's start with pine needles. They can be a great option for acidic soils. or for plants that thrive in more acidic conditions.
Like blueberries and rhododendrons, for example.
Exactly. Those plants love that acidic environment,
Right.
and a layer of pine needles can really help create those ideal conditions for them to thrive. But if your soil is already neutral or alkaline,
Yeah.
you might want to be a bit more cautious about using pine needles.
So they're not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Not necessarily. It all depends on your soil type and the needs of your plants. For example, sawdust is another organic material
Hmm.
that decomposes slowly and can also increase soil acidity.
Okay, so sawdust would be a good choice for those acid-loving plants too, then.
It could be, but there's a catch.
Oh.
Sawdust decomposes even slower than pine needles.
Okay.
And as it breaks down, it can actually tie up the nitrogen in the soil, making it less available to your plants.
So it's kind of a double whammy, increasing acidity and potentially depriving the plants of nitrogen.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So that's why it's important to use sawdust sparingly and in conjunction with other materials that can provide a more balanced approach.
Now, I'm curious about wood chips. They seem to be pretty popular for garden paths and landscaping.
Yeah.
What impact do they have on soil health?
Well, wood chips are a bit different from sawdust.
Okay.
While they also decompose slowly, they're really good at improving soil structure. They
Okay.
increase air circulation, and they can help the soil to retain moisture.
Yeah.
However, they don't really contribute as much to microbial activity as sawdust or pine needles because of their slow breakdown rate.
So they're good for soil structure, but not necessarily a powerhouse of nutrients.
Right. Now let's talk about leaves.
Okay.
They're a readily available resource for most people, and a lot of gardeners use them as soil amendment.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea of using something that's already in my yard.
Right. But are all leaves created equal in terms of their effect on the soil?
Well, not quite.
Okay.
Deciduous leaves, like those from oak, maple, or beech trees, are
Mhm.
generally neutral to slightly acidic.
Okay.
They're a great source of organic matter, and they break down relatively quickly, which enriches the soil with nutrients and boosts that microbial activity.
So they sound like a great all-around choice.
They are, and they make excellent mulch, which further improves the soil structure and provides a great habitat for those beneficial microbes and fungi.
Right.
Now, pine needles, as we discussed, are more acidic,
Yeah.
and they can lower that soil pH, so they're best suited for either acidic soils or acid-loving plants.
What about grass clippings and other soft leaves that decompose quickly?
Those tend to be more neutral and have a very minimal impact on the pH. They're a great source of nitrogen and decompose rapidly, giving your plants a quick boost of nutrients.
It's like a nitrogen buffet for the soil.
Exactly. And then finally, we have the option of using a mix of leaves, which I think offers a nice balanced approach.
Okay.
It combines the benefits of different types of leaves without causing any drastic changes to the pH.
So mixing it up is a good strategy.
It can be. It's all about creating a diverse and balanced soil ecosystem to support a wider range of life.
It sounds like there's a lot more to think about than just tossing some leaves on the garden bed.
There is.
Speaking of thinking about things, let's address a couple of common myths about soil amendments.
Okay.
Myth-busting time.
All right.
What's the first myth on our list?
Just add more compost to the soil.
Okay.
While compost is really good for your soil's health, too much of a good thing can actually be detrimental.
Really? How so?
Well, excessive compost can lead to problems like stunted growth in plants and even phosphorus leaching because of that overly high organic matter content. It's like overfeeding your plants. It can actually do more harm than good.
So even with something as beneficial as compost, moderation is key.
Absolutely. Balance is crucial in all aspects of gardening.
Okay, what's the next myth we need to debunk?
Tree roots only go as far as the drip line.
I've definitely heard that one.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem quite right, does it?
No, it's a misconception
Yeah.
that can lead to some, let's say, unfortunate planting decisions. In reality, many tree roots extend far beyond the drip line, often 3 to 4 times the diameter of the tree's crown.
Wow, that's way further than I would have imagined.
It is.
So we need to be mindful of those extensive root systems when we're planting near trees.
Yes, absolutely. And those roots play a crucial role in soil stability and erosion control. They're like nature's anchors.
It's incredible to think about this intricate web of life that exists both above and below ground.
It is. And the more we understand about those connections, the better equipped we are to care for the environment
Yeah.
and create thriving gardens and landscapes.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of soil and nutrients.
It has.
I feel like I'm already looking at those piles of leaves in a whole new light.
You too.
Yeah.
They're not just yard waste.
Right.
They're a valuable resource for
Yeah.
building healthy soil.
And for our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the complexity and beauty of the soil beneath our feet. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more insights in just a moment.
You know, it's amazing how this whole conversation about pine needles has really expanded into a much broader exploration of soil health and ecosystem dynamics.
Yeah, it's like we started by focusing on just one ingredient, and now we're seeing the whole recipe for a thriving garden.
Exactly. And like any good recipe, balance is key. We need to consider all those different components, the organic matter, the microbes, the fungi, the pH, to create a truly harmonious and productive environment.
It's like an intricate dance with all those elements working together in sync.
That's a great way to put it. It's a dance that's been going on for millions of years, long before humans ever started gardening.
And that brings us back to Kesser and Steen's question about how forests manage to stay so healthy without any intervention from us.
Right. Like, think about those pine needles we were talking about. They decompose so slowly.
Right.
They may not be the quickest providers of nutrients,
Yeah.
but they play a crucial role in that slow buildup of organic matter in the forest floor.
So it's like they're creating this slow-release savings account of nutrients for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I like that analogy. And then you have those faster decomposing leaves and other organic materials that can provide those more immediate bursts of nutrients.
Right.
It's a beautiful system of checks and balances.
And let's not forget those microscopic decomposers doing all that incredible work down there.
Yeah.
They're like the tireless recycling crew,
Yeah.
constantly breaking down the organic matter and making those nutrients available to the plants.
They're the unsung heroes of the forest.
Absolutely. It's amazing to think about how much is actually happening beneath our feet
Right.
that we don't even really think about.
It really is. And it shows how important it is to understand these complex interactions so that we can garden and manage our landscapes in a way that supports all those natural processes.
Well, speaking of gardening, let's go back to some practical applications of all this
Okay.
stuff we've been talking about. So if someone's out there and they want to use pine needles in their garden, what would your advice be?
I'd say, first and foremost, consider your soil type and the types of plants you're growing. So if you have an acidic soil
Right.
and you're growing acid-loving plants, things like blueberries or rhododendrons, then pine needles can be a great mulch for you.
But if you have a more neutral or alkaline soil, you might want to be a bit more cautious.
Exactly. You don't want to overdo it and end up with nutrient deficiencies or create pH imbalances.
So what would be a better approach in those cases?
I'd say in those situations, a mix of organic materials is often the best strategy. Combine those pine needles
Okay.
with some deciduous leaves, maybe some grass clippings, or even compost to create a more balanced blend.
So kind of like a custom blend fertilizer for your garden
Exact.
based on the needs of your plants and your soil.
Precisely. And remember, observe. Pay attention to how your plants are actually responding to the amendments you're adding.
Yeah, that's great advice. Speaking of observation, I'm curious, how can we encourage a healthy population of all those beneficial microbes and fungi that we were talking about in our own gardens?
There are a few things you can do. First, try to minimize or even eliminate the use of those synthetic pesticides and herbicides,
Yeah.
because those can really disrupt that delicate balance in the soil.
So working with nature rather than against it.
Exactly. Another thing that's really important is avoiding excessive tilling of the soil.
Okay.
Tilling can really disrupt those fungal networks that are so crucial for nutrient cycling.
So a more hands-off approach is often better.
In many cases, yes. And finally, adding organic matter regularly
Yeah.
is like providing a feast for those microbes and fungi.
Okay, so compost, leaves, even those pine needles we've been talking about all contribute to a thriving underground world.
Exactly. It's all about diversity and balance.
Well, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I feel like I've learned so much
Me too.
and gained a whole new appreciation for this complexity and the beauty of the soil.
It is. It truly is a world that's just teeming with life and these intricate connections
Yeah.
that are so essential for the health of our planet.
And to think it all started with Kesser and Steen's simple question about pine needles.
It just goes to show that a little bit of curiosity
Yeah.
and a willingness to dig a little deeper can lead to some pretty fascinating discoveries.
It's incredible to think about this whole web of life that's going on both above and below ground.
It truly is. And the more we understand about these connections, the better equipped we are to care for our environment and
Yeah.
create those thriving gardens and landscapes that we all want.
Well, this has been a fascinating journey into the world of soil science. I'm inspired to get out there and give my garden some extra TLC.
Me too. And remember, every garden is its own unique ecosystem. So don't be afraid to experiment and observe and see what works best for you.
That's great advice. Now, before we let you go, we have one final question for our listeners.
Okay.
What surprised you the most about the role of pine needles and other organic materials in soil health? We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm eager to hear what they have to say. And remember, learning is a lifelong journey.
Absolutely.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering all the wonders of the natural world.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of soil science. We'll be back in a moment to wrap things up.
Welcome back to our deep dive into soil and nutrients.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it? From pine needles to ecosystems.
You know, it's amazing how this whole conversation started with a simple question about pine needles and expanded into this broad exploration of how soil and ecosystems work together.
Yeah, it's like we zoomed out from just one ingredient to see this whole recipe for a thriving garden.
Exactly. And just like a good recipe, it all comes down to balance, right? We need to consider all the different parts. The organic matter, the microbes, the fungi, the pH, it all has to work together to make a truly healthy and productive environment.
Absolutely. It's not just about throwing a bunch of stuff in there and hoping for the best.
Right.
It's about understanding how everything interacts and contributes to a balanced ecosystem.
And that's where observation comes in.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to gardening. Exactly. Every soil is a little bit different, every climate's a little bit different, and every gardener has their own goals.
Right.
So what works in one place might not work in another.
So it's about learning to listen to our own gardens and figuring out what works best in our own unique situations.
Exactly. Pay attention to how your plants are doing.
Right.
Are they thriving? Are they struggling? What are they telling you?
And don't be afraid to experiment, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll discover your soil loves a certain mix of leaves.
Yeah.
Or that a little bit of wood ash makes a huge difference.
It's all about learning and discovery. The more we understand about our soil, the better gardeners will be.
This has been such an eye-opening experience for me. I feel like I have a whole new level of respect for this amazing world that's going on beneath our feet.
It truly is a world teeming with life and these incredibly intricate connections that are so vital for the health of the planet.
Before we wrap things up, I have one final question for you. We've talked a lot about the practical side of soil health, but what about the deeper connection we have with the soil? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's important to remember that we're not separate from nature, we're part of it.
Yeah.
And soil is the foundation of life on Earth, literally. It's where our food grows, it's where our water is filtered, and it's home to countless organisms.
Now, we talk about caring for the soil. We're really talking about caring for ourselves.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
through the planet.
It's about understanding that we're all connected and our actions have ripple effects throughout the whole ecosystem.
Well said. This deep dive has been incredibly informative and inspiring.
It has.
We've learned so much about the science of soil, but we've also touched on something much deeper, our relationship with the natural world.
It's been great to explore those ideas with you. And hopefully with Kesser and Steen as well.
And all of our listeners out there, we hope you've enjoyed this journey into the fascinating world of soil science. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep nurturing that soil that sustains us all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.